For today's video, I thought I would do another dive in how I go from start to finish for any level of concept art or character design that I'm drawing, whether that be for one artwork or for a whole fleshed out personal project. The first step of picking the subject matter that I'll be drawing and creating the concepts from tends to be the most difficult for me, as I can never seem to decide on what I want to use. So an exercise I like to do is to pick 3 different prompts, sometimes related to each other, other times completely unrelated from each other, and for this video my selected prompts were sleep, space, and ceramics. So my goal is to create a piece of concept art with at least one character based around these 3 prompts. My second step then is to create a mind map. Mind maps are a great way to get all of my ideas down and to think of everything related to the prompts that I've selected. Occasionally you might have a subject matter that you need to research into a little more if you don't know too much about it, but you can make the mind map as detailed or simplified as you like. From this mind map, I start to figure out how I can link the 3 of these prompts together, involving an environment, a prop, and a character. So the way I went about it was thinking about how out of the 3 prompts, ceramics is a craft. I thought perhaps my character can be based on a ceramist. So I was thinking then, how can I make this link to space? Perhaps they don't create actual ceramic products, but perhaps planets and galaxies. My mind thought of the swirling clouds and Saturn's rings, and the shape was just reminding me of how people use the potter's wheels and how when it spins really fast it looks like a giant disc. So that was 2 prompts linked together, so I was thinking then, how can I link sleep in? Maybe dress them in pyjamas and give them a starry dressing gown with a tired expression and messy hair as if they just woke up. After I get all my written ideas down, I like to move this into the visual thumbnail stage so I can see how these ideas actually look, plus how I can expand off of them before committing to a final idea. I kind of knew straight away that I wanted my character to be almost just like a regular human to contrast with their fantasy setting. Their job's going to be very grand and magical, but they just see it as like a regular 9 to 5 and end up working late nights to meet deadlines. So this is where the benefits of building off the original prompts come in, because it helps me to add a bit more story and character to this concept. After a couple of thumbnails, I did decide to add a little fantasy element to the character, giving them messy, half tied up hair, but instead of hair at the back it's like a small star with streaks of light trailing off like hair strands. And I was also thinking about giving them like a little star assistant, but I felt this might potentially make the final artwork a little too busy and draw attention away from my main character. An additional thought I had was, what would their workstation look like? So I knew already that I wanted it based off of Potter's wheel, but I wanted to try and keep it more in theme with my prompts, so I thumbnailed some sketches of the table looking like a piece of meteorite rock, with like a carved out hole on one end which takes the place of like the Potter's wheel, and I liked this as it felt a bit more different and it kind of fitted into the space theme quite nicely. I drew a couple more ideas of the types of props the final concept artwork could have, but I didn't want to be spending too long on too many designs for this particular project, as it was only a quick one I'm sort of making for this video. So I moved swiftly on to my next step of the process, which was to create a rough Blender model. I like to use Blender to construct the rough shapes of my environments for concept art, but a small dilemma I was having for this particular project was if I wanted to thumbnail the artwork first, exploring the perspective and shape ideas I could go for, then construct the Blender model off of that, or create the Blender model first, then thumbnail the artwork ideas from that. Honestly, either way works, and it just depends on what your preference is. So for this one I opted to design the Blender model first, then take different screenshots of angles that I thought would be interesting to explore. I ended up having to try and decide between 2 different perspectives, so one was like looking down on the character and then the other one was looking more upward, and I decided on the upward perspective as I liked the idea of the shelves with all the planets trailing off into the night sky above the character. My last part is then just building up the final artwork. So something I was debating while in the rendering process was how colourful I wanted it to be with all the different planets. It was starting to feel a little bit too busy in places, so this is where I decided to ditch the patterning that I had on my character's dressing gown, as the starry paint I wanted them to be covered in was kind of looking a little lost in all of the swirls and colours. Usually halfway through rendering a full artwork, I get a little feeling of dread that it's not going to turn out as good as I imagined it in my head, but I was overall pretty pleased with this piece. A couple of things I really want to work on is how I draw characters and their environments, and to try and make some slight improvements to my line art. It's really useful to bring a full idea to completion because it can inform me on what I still need to work on and what I'm getting better at. I do feel like I'm always going to be trying to chase that sense of perfection I want for my work, but I can see myself improving with each idea I bring to life. Anyway, that's it from me, and thanks so much for watching this quick video, and I'll see you in the next one.